You are 9 years old when the silence in your home becomes permanent. Your father didn't come back from the construction site. They say it was an accident, a scaffold that gave way in Barra da Tijuca, but to the system he is just a number that stopped producing. Now your mother is the sole pillar. She wakes up at 4 a.m., brews the black coffee and catches the bus to the Zona Sul. She cleans floors in apartments that shine so brightly you can't even believe they belong to the same city. She returns with hands smelling of bleach and the leftovers her bosses didn't want. Cidade de Deus in the 80s is no longer the government's model project. The asphalt is cracked and the streetlights are always out. It is the era of Zé Pequeno, where the old romantic outlaw has given way to the psychopathy of profit. You grow up hearing that the Moro has an owner and the owner doesn't tolerate mistakes. The police only enter to beat people or to collect their bribe. At school, the books are torn and the teachers are afraid, but on the corner, the movement is organized. You see the armed guys and realize they are the only ones who seem to have a future. They wear designer shirts and watches that glow in the darkness of the favela. While your mother cries in secret because the gas money ran out, you look at the vapor at the drug den. He gives you a piece of gum and asks if you want to earn 20 cruzeros to deliver a message. That's how it begins. Not with a gunshot, but with a choice between hunger and opportunity. You decide that you won't die carrying sacks of cement like your father. You want to be the nightmare of those who ignore you. In Cidade de Deus, you don't survive alone. You need a fechamento, someone who's got your back. Yours is Beto. He's 2 years older with a wide grin and a knack for turning any tragedy into a joke. Beto teaches you what school ignores, how to camouflage yourself in the alleys, how to read the glint in a junkie's eyes, and how to identify the sound of a police engine before the siren even starts. The two of you are the eyes of the movement in Karate. While your mother prays the rosary for protection, you and Beto share a radio and a dream of greatness, sitting high up on a concrete roof. Beto is like the Bene you heard about in the stories of old. He has the charisma to disarm even the Choque riot police. He says crime is a ladder and that you'll reach the top together. But the reality of the CDD doesn't accept long-term plans. On a scorching afternoon, the Caveirão, the armored truck, cuts through the main road. The asphalt trembles. You don't run. The code says to watch. But a nervous sergeant decides that any shadow on a rooftop is a target. The gunshot doesn't sound like the movies. It's a dry snap, like a branch breaking. You look to the side, and Beto's smile is gone, replaced by a void that blood begins to fill. You hold his hand as life slips through the gaps in your fingers, feeling the warmth fade away. That night, you return home with a stained shirt and a heart of stone. Your mother hugs you, crying without knowing why, but you don't feel the warmth of her embrace. Fear died along with Beto. Now, hate is the fuel. You seek out the manager of the drug den and ask for a rifle. You no longer want to be just the eyes of the moto. You want to be the hand that pulls the trigger. The 90s arrive with the smell of diesel fuel and burnt gunpowder. Cidade de Deus is no longer just divided by sectors. Now it is divided by ideologies of blood. You are no longer the kid who delivered messages. You were the frontline leader of a containment group in Karate. The AR-15 rifle, which once felt like a heavy trophy, now feels like an extension of your arm. You've learned to sleep with the barrel of the gun against your boot and to wake up at the first snap of a transformer. The rival faction tries to enter through the apartamento area, and the Moro turns into a hell of tracer rounds crossing the West Zone sky. It is in this war that you earn your vulgo, your street name. You don't shout, you don't celebrate, you simply execute. While others lose themselves in the adrenaline, you maintain the calm that Beto didn't have. During a dawn invasion, your unit is cornered by the battalion of shock on one side and rivals on the other. The radio command is to retreat, but you see the opening. You lead 3 men through the Valan, the open sewer, submerged in mud and waste, and flank the invaders. The result is 5 recovered rifles and immediate respect from the faction's high command. Your mother now lives in a better house, plastered and painted, but she won't look you in the eye. She knows that every new appliance has a price that isn't paid in installments, but in someone else's grief. You become the right-hand man for the boss of the Moro. You manage the flow, dictate the rules of conduct, and understand the mechanics of the Arrego, the money that flows into the hands of those who are supposed to arrest you. You discover that the law in Cidade de Deus is a business, and you are one of the majority shareholders. The top is right there, but every step you climb is stained by the blood of those left behind. The power vacuum in Cidade de Deus is filled with the sound of sirens and the silence of cowards. The former leader falls in a cinematic operation in the Karate area. They say it was a setup, an X9, an informant who wanted his place. But the leadership of the Comando Vermelho doesn't choose replacements by lottery. They choose by efficiency. You are summoned to a meeting in a bunker in Peña. Amid gold-plated rifles and monitoring screens covering half of Rio, the gavel falls. The CDD is now your responsibility. You return to the Moro no longer as a warrior, but as the father, the owner of the territory. Taking the throne changes the taste of your food. You have millions of reals in cash buried under the floors of safe houses, but you cannot cross the Linha Amarela highway to spend a single cent at a mall in Barra. Your life is confined to 4 square kilometers of alleys and rooftops. You are the judge, the jury, and if necessary, the executioner. You decide who gets cataract surgery paid for by the Caixinha, the community fund, who gets punished for robbing a resident, and which politician is allowed to campaign during elections. The community looks at you with a mix of gratitude and dread. You are the provider who finances the Sunday baile fuck, but also the shadow that makes the entire neighborhood turn off their lights when the radio warns that the beast is coming. Paranoia becomes your only faithful companion. You never sleep in the same bed 2 nights in a row. Every motorcycle that revs its engine at the corner makes your hand reach for your pistol by instinct. You begin to distrust your own soldiers. After all, you rose exactly like this, waiting for the mistake of whoever was above you. Power in Cidade de Deus is a glass throne. It shines brightly, but it cuts deep for anyone who tries to hold it too tight. You have everything the 9-year-old boy dreamed of, but you realize that freedom was the price you paid for respect. Today, you're sitting on the porch of a house your father could never have afforded to plaster. The radio at your waist crackles with the movement of the Batalhão on the Linha Amarela highway, but your gaze is fixed on a detail at the foot of the hill. A kid, skinny, about 9 years old, runs through the alleys with a small radio hanging around his neck. He moves with the same hunger you once had. He looks at your armored truck with the same glint of greed you had for Zé Pequeno's watch. In that moment, the chill down your spine isn't fear of the police. It's the realization that you are not the owner of Cidade de Deus. You are merely the tenant of a throne that demands rent and blood. The history of the CDD does not forgive its protagonists. The system you built to protect your family is the same one now recruiting the next you. Your mother died without ever accepting the money that came smelling of gunpowder, and your siblings are far away, living lives you financed but are no longer a part of. You are a ghost surrounded by bodyguards. You look at your own hands, and even washed with the most expensive soap, they still hold the residue of rifle oil and the warmth of Beto's hand fading away on that rooftop. You know how this ends. There is no retirement for those who are the Frente. The finale is either an autopsy report or a 3-square-meter cell in Catanduvas. You clean your pistol, check the magazine, and look back at the kid down there. He just got a piece of gum from one of your soldiers and smiles. The cycle resets. You are the hitman, the dealer, the boss, but deep down you are just the fuel for a machine that never stops grinding. Tomorrow, the name at the top will change. Cidade de Deus will go on, and you will be just a legend told in an internet post or a shadow erased by the next owner of the Moro.